In this video, I'll walk you through the steps that we took to hide our AC unit outside. There were a couple of rules that we had for hiding the unit. Number one was we wanted to make sure that it was accessible. You want to make sure that repairs can be done on it, or if you have a semi-annual maintenance agreement on it, you want to be able to remove these quickly so that they can get in there and do what they need to do. The next thing we wanted to make sure is we wanted to make sure that it has enough airflow and enough venting for it to work properly. If it's not getting enough venting, then it's not going to do its job. And by default, they say to make sure you have at least 12-inch clearing between whatever your fencing is and your AC unit. So you can measure that out. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and measure the area that you want to do. You want to do the length and the width as well as the height, so you know how tall you want to make this for it. As you can see here, we're also making sure that we come out as much as 12 inches to make sure that we're good to go. For this project, you can use pressure treated 1x4s. For this one, we had cypress that we could use. So we're using cypress for our 4-inch slats. Depending on the size that your enclosure needed will determine how many you need. For the legs of this project and kind of the backing of it, you can use 2x2s. They usually come in 8 feet lengths and they are pressure treated, and you can cut them down to 60 to 66 inches depending on the size of your project. Again, we had to cut ours down to between 60 and 66 inches. You'll also want to get PVC piping. You can use two 2-inch PVC pipings that Lowe's sells and 5 feet lengths. Then you can cut them down to the 4 pieces at 15 inches long that you'll need for each item. You'll also want to have a power drill to do this. Finally, you'll also want to make sure that you have 1 by 5/8 exterior screws for this project. The next step is you want to measure out your 2x2s, so you'll make sure that you have the right height for this backing. Make sure to add the 6 inches or so for driving them into the ground, since we'll use the PVC to go into the ground and then these will go inside the PVC. Now we can lay those out, and then we need to go back and measure out our 4-inch wide slats so we have the right length to go on top of this. With a miter saw, you can measure out your first one and then use that as a guide to cut all of them. Also with a miter saw, you can double or triple up on your boards so you can make it even faster, since the depth of the saw blade is big enough that it can go through all of them. Now we need to line up the slats across our little backers, and you see that this is about the depth that you want the screw to go, and you want it to be flush with the slat. So that's what we're going for, and that's why the 1 by 5/8 will work so well for this.
So there's different sizes of star drives, so you have to know which one it is so it's a tight fit. See, that's too big and won't fit in there. That's a tight fit and it doesn't rock. Whereas this one is too small.
Too much movement.
Too much movement will strip the screw.
Yeah.
Now, to pre-drill, you're going to see what has just a fairly smaller. That's too big, it won't bite. That's pretty good, it's small enough that it won't split the wood. Yeah. And you want to make sure it's in there good. You need it a little bit more, but not too much. Just where the screws, where the spiral is outside.
Okay. Now we want to square up the 4 slats on top of the 2x2s so that they are flush from the top and the side. The next thing we want to make sure we do is we want to pre-drill. When you're pre-drilling, make sure you bring it in that you're not getting too close to the edge so you don't split it. So you'll want to come in about 1/2 inch to 1 inch on both sides so that you're good to go. And then we can finally insert the screws to secure them. Once we get the first 2 screws in, we can go back over to the other side and do the exact same thing. And then our first board is done. Now, the easiest way to do your next board is by taking one of your boards and making that your template. So you just put it in and butt it up, and then you know that every board will have this width, the same width in between it. So that's an easy way to use a board as a template. So you have even spacing. And then you just want to do that same process for both panels. And then by the end of it, you should have 2 good looking panels that you'll be ready to install next. So the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and cut your PVC down at the bottom. You'll want to cut it at an angle. You can set your miter saw for a 45-degree angle so that it makes it easier when driving it into the ground. Once you've installed the PVC into the ground, you can bring your panel over and put it inside where it's going to be. Then you'll want to take your level and try to make sure that you can get it level. You can either add a little bit of, to get it level, you can add a little bit of rocks under the one that's lower to raise it up to the height that you want. And now you have an AC enclosure that you can remove when you need to. And if you're interested in more backyard tips and projects that we'll be doing, then go ahead and click on the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know. And thanks for checking out our video.